Hello and welcome back to Parc Fermé Parlay with Kieran Downey. Breaking news edition. This is a video I didn't think I would be making. And if I was to make it, it would probably have been at the end of the season when Red Bull Racing finished 4th, 5th, 6th behind Sauber in the Constructors' Championship. Not halfway through the season on a random Wednesday. Of course, I am talking about the fact that Christian Horner has been sacked, effective immediately from his role as team principal and CEO of Oracle Red Bull Racing. I was not prepared for this news at all. I was not ready. I was at work. I thought, do you know what? It's first week of a sort of 2-week break. It'll all be pretty chill. Formula One, I'll have a wee moment just to relax, put the brakes on. But no, on a random Wednesday, they decide to drop a bomb that Christian Horner has been fired and that he will be replaced by VCARB team principal Laurent Mekies. I'm in shock that Horner got fired. I did not see this coming at all. I know there's been rumblings for the past 18 months, 2 years, and I thought if it was going to happen, it would have been around about the time that the whole scandal broke in 2024 last year. I didn't think it would just be a sort of random Wednesday halfway through the season. Like, the timing's all a bit off, and we'll come and speak to that in a second. What I will say is that this is an end of an era, because he has been team principal of that team for 20 odd years. He's been the only team principal that Red Bull have ever had. When Red Bull took over the team from Jaguar, they put Christian Horner in as team principal. He's been the only man at the helm of that ship for 20 odd years. And now it's all over like that. This seems to have come to a shock to everyone. Like, I don't think any of us seen it coming. Not any of the fans, the commentators, not Christian. He found out the day before, it seems, and then told all of Red Bull that morning. And then an hour or so later, it's the breaking news graphics are going up, and it's, breaking news on Sky and everything that Christian Horner's been fired. The video has been leaked of Horner's speech to the team, and it is quite sad, it's quite emotional. It has cleared something up for me, that is, he is operationally not involved with the team anymore, but he is still employed by them. I was really worried that the reason Ferrari hadn't extended Fred Vasseurs' contract is because they wanted Christian Horner. But thankfully, Christian is still employed by Red Bull. He is just not the team principal, not the CEO, not involved with the team operationally in any way. This is all just absolutely insane, because if you think back, it wasn't that long ago that Red Bull nearly won everything in 2023. Like, the team, bar one race, won every single race. Their star driver won 19 out of the 22 races. They broke records. They were absolutely killing it. And then 2 years later, the man that led that charge has been sacked. I have to say that the downfall of Red Bull has been pretty wild, and it's been coming for a while. Even in 2023, when things were going so well for them, there was a lot of shakiness, and it's just slowly slipped away from them to what we have now, where the majority of the headlines that come out from that team are more bad than good, and we've had mass exodus, and our team principal's just been fired. I suppose getting into it, was firing Christian Horner the right move? I would say no. He should have been fired about 18 months ago. I would say the success of the team kept him in his position, but now that that success is gone, what else is there? There's nothing left. Between power struggles, high-profile exits, a personal scandal, a fallout with the camp of your star driver, Horner, I would say, has been dodging bullets left, right and centre. there will be no championship this year. Not constructors, not the drivers. The team is crumbling apart. The second driver problem is a full-blown crisis. And the one person that is holding it all together right now, Max Verstappen, is highly rumoured to be leaving the team to go and join probably their biggest rival, Mercedes. All empires fall eventually, and it just seemed like it was time for Horner. The writing's been on the wall now for a while, I'd say. There's been a clear power struggle within the team at Red Bull and within the parent company ever since Dietrich Mateschitz died in 2022. The team has fully split into two camps, and it's everyone on the sort of Horner side, and then you almost have everyone on sort of Team Verstappen that includes, you know, Helmut Marko and Adrian Newey and everything like that. And the team really fractured around about the time that Mateschitz died. From what we've heard and all the reports and the rumours that are coming out of that team, there was a very clear, you know, if Horner stays, we all leave. And Horner's response to that was to just dig his heels in and defiantly continue his role and continue what he was doing and the way he was operating. He wasn't going to give in to this. And then in 2024, it definitely became very clear that there was huge problems in that team because we had a big string of high-profile exits, including probably one of the most important people in that team, Adrian Newey, who decided that he had had enough and that he was moving to Aston Martin. One of the most legendary, if not the most legendary car designer in Formula One history. And we never thought he'd leave Red Bull. I thought if Adrian Newey leaves Red Bull, he is retiring. I never thought he would move to another team. And it just shows how bad things were at Red Bull, or still are at Red Bull, that Newey was like, I'm out. I really didn't like the way that Christian Horner handled the whole departure of Adrian Newey when he began to say that the success of Red Bull was solely down to him, his leadership and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, that the team wouldn't really miss Adrian Newey. It felt wrong, and it felt, you know, it was wrong that people that had worked incredibly hard and had done an amazing job and everything weren't getting the dues. It felt like he'd completely switched position because Newey was getting a lot of praise throughout the 2023 season and throughout the beginning of 2024. And then when it was announced he was leaving, Horner's attitude towards him completely changed. Obviously, Newey wasn't the only one. Jonathan Wheatley, who was the team sporting director, he's left to go to Sauber. And you can definitely feel where Jonathan's experience and talent at what he does is missing at Red Bull because he's only been in Sauber now a couple of months and that team is apparently a podium team. Do you know what I mean? Like, there is very clear progression happening at Sauber with the introduction of the people like Jonathan Wheatley and Matteo Binotto and everything being there. Whereas at Red Bull, Jonathan Wheatley's gone, Adrian Newey's gone, and that team is, as I said, crumbling around them. And with everyone leaving, is this a last-ditch attempt to stop the next big rumoured departure, which is Max Verstappen? Is it a last-ditch attempt to try and keep him in the team? I do think the timing of everything is incredibly odd, as I said. You know, we're halfway through the season. The British GP was the halfway marker. It was a random Wednesday, and this all came about, which makes me think that Red Bull have been trying to get rid of Horner for quite some time now. It was very clear that Horner wasn't going to leave of his own accord, and I don't know whether there is a performance clause in his contract that, you know, they've slipped to a certain position and it's like, right, well, here you are, you're not giving us the results we wanted from you, we're activating this clause in your contract, you're out. Or whether it's just taken them a bit of time to try and find a loophole in his contract to try and get rid of him. But the fact that they let him go so quickly on a random day and have already got Laurent Mekies and everything ready there to take control of the team as CEO and team principal, this has been coming for quite some time. And I think just because of the position that Horner was, they had to make sure that they were doing it the right ways. Even throughout Red Bull's success in 2023, Christian Horner has never been entirely favoured by the Red Bull parent company. When Dietrich Mateschitz died in 2022, the creator of Red Bull, the company kind of fractured into two sides, and there was the Thai side that was very invested in Christian Horner. They were very Team Horner. And then there was the Austrian side, the Dietrich Mateschitz side, that was very against Christian Horner. They weren't a big fan of him. It doesn't surprise me that Red Bull and Christian Horner are maybe facing the issues that they are right now, considering the fact that the parent company that owns this team has its own sort of power struggle going on after the death of one of its owners. And that the two big sides of it have differing opinions on the leadership of this team. So no wonder Christian Horner's probably gotten himself into this kind of mess. And it doesn't surprise me that Red Bull Racing has gone tits up, considering what's happening within Red Bull itself since 2022 when Mateschitz died. I have to say, I think the firing of Christian Horner makes me more confident that Max Verstappen will leave Red Bull at the end of the year. Not because Max was a big Christian Horner supporter. Quite famously, Max Verstappen's camp has been quite anti-Christian. We obviously don't know exactly Max's feelings on Christian Horner. I think Max is quite happy just to turn up and focus fully on the performance of the car out on track. Whereas we all know his father, Jos Verstappen, absolutely detests Christian Horner. And it's been very clear for a very long time. You also have Helmut Marko, who is very on the Max Verstappen side, the Verstappen camp side, who also doesn't really like Christian Horner. And they don't like each other, and that's been quite clear. As I said, I think the firing of Christian Horner, to me, it reads one of two ways. That this is a last-ditch, desperate attempt to stop Max Verstappen from leaving. That there has been all of this talk that, and I don't think it's Verstappen saying either Horner leaves or we leave. I don't think that was ever a conversation that happened. There has been reports of a conversation between the CEO of the Red Bull parent company and Max Verstappen, and that was apparently one of the conversations that led to Horner being fired. However, I don't believe it was them throwing down the gauntlet of him or us. What I do think is maybe Red Bull saying we're trying to get away from the scandal and the power struggle and the drama of everything. We want to get back to winning, and this is how we want to do it. We fired Christian. Are you staying? Does this make you want to stay if we get new leadership in and try and refreshen everything? I don't think that's the case, because I don't also think that Red Bull would fire Horner just for Max. I also think if they did do that, Christian Horner's lawyers would probably have a pretty decent clause to say this is unfair dismissal, perhaps. But the other side of it, and a side that I think could be more likely, is that Red Bull have fired Horner because potentially Max has already made a choice to leave. And Red Bull look at it and say, you know, you've lost our sporting director in Jonathan Wheatley. You've lost our star designer in Adrian Newey, who is, you know, the best car designer of all time. You've lost us so many other high-profile people that have gone to like McLaren or Mercedes or Ferrari. You are losing our star driver in Max Verstappen, and you've created a situation in our second seat that is incredibly toxic and is now a full-blown crisis. The more that this goes on, the more I do just believe that Max is leaving the team. I do, and I know that there's no guarantee that Mercedes will be better next year, or there's no guarantee that Aston Martin will be better next year. There's no guarantee that Red Bull will continue its downfall next year. However, this isn't going to get any better quickly. I do think a change of leadership is definitely needed, but you know, the rot is there, and the rot I think is quite deep, and whether or not they can turn that around quickly to try and gain anything the rest of this year, or whether it is a fresh restart for 2026, I don't know. But I can see a world where the Mercedes lineup for 2026 is Kimi Antonelli and Max Verstappen. I think it would be George Russell that would exit that team, which is a shame, because George is an excellent driver. He's been having a fantastic season this year. You know, he's born and bred Mercedes. He's been nurtured and raised through the junior program. He went to Williams to start his Formula One career before moving into Mercedes, and, you know, has been progressively getting better. However, I don't think that they would have a Russell Verstappen lineup. I don't think that they would bench Antonelli. He has just come into the sport in his first year. Toto has put so much behind him. They need to keep him running as an F1 driver. They can't waste his time putting him as a reserve or anything like that. But they just can't afford to have him as a reserve driver. He's too talented, and they've invested too much into him, unfortunately. And they have invested a lot in George, but I could just see total drop in George so quickly for Max Verstappen. There's also reports in the Dutch media. The Dutch media are beginning to report that the chairman of Mercedes-Benz has given the Formula One team the green light to go and actively pursue Max Verstappen now that Christian Horner has been fired. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. Max has an £87 million buyout clause, which for a company like Mercedes is probably a drop in the water. So we will see what happens. This is obviously a breaking news story, and it will continue to evolve, and we will bring you all the news as it comes. Horner being fired is 100% the end of an era. As I said, he's the only team principal that Red Bull have ever had since they took over from Jaguar. He has led that team to so many championships, both drivers and constructors. He has secured so many wins and very high moments for the team, and I think he will be remembered in the history books for those achievements, and that is fantastic. Nobody will ever take away from him what he's managed to do for that team and with that team, and he will go down in the history books as statistically one of the best team principals the sport has had. But on the flip side, in the memory of the fans and how a lot of people will remember Horner, is going to be a very different story. It will be a story of controversy, of crisis, of toxicity, of scandal. If you look at 2023, that success, the success of the team in 2023, the fan base, we remember it as Max Verstappen, as Adrian Newey, as a team, as a collective team, from the guys in the pits to the strategists, to the mechanics, to everything. It was a team effort, not solely Christian Horner, as he would like us all to believe. Listen, it's a soured end to Christian Horner's time at Red Bull, but I think it is deserved. And as I said earlier in the episode, I think he should have been fired 18 months ago. And that is everything from us on this breaking news. We will, of course, bring you more as we find out. But that is everything from us. We'll be back very soon with our review, I believe, of the F1 movie. I went and seen it the other day. I'm going to go and see it again this weekend. And unless there's any breaking news, if Formula One can take a chill for 5 minutes and let me get my thoughts about F1 movie together, that would be lovely. And then once that's out, we can continue being crazy. But thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day. Love you. Bye.